Welcome. This is the Drupal usability meeting for July 5th, 2024. I'm Benji Fisher moderating, and also present are Simo Helston sharing the screen, and we'll start off the conversation, and Offer Shal, Rachel Hart, and Ralph Kohler. Go ahead, Simo.
Thanks, Benji. So this is issue number 3455155. So this is about this is a follow-up issue from showing machine name in manage form display and manage display table row. That's an issue we discussed earlier. I made recommendations, and this is about how the machine name is displayed in a table. So the problem is that the string gets hyphenated when it's split into several rows, one or more rows, and that's something we wouldn't want with machine names to happen, because that's something that should be exact. There's also, I was looking at this earlier and noticed that on that that table, the label doesn't it doesn't get hyphenated, but the machine name does, and also some other parts do if it's required. And yeah, so and this is something that happens probably also elsewhere in the system, but I didn't get to look at all the different places where we have similar kind of strings in a table. So here the problem is quite clear to me. So do you get the problem? Is the problem here clear?
The hyphen isn't part of the machine name,
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah.
And the machine names it's kind of, for someone who knows that machine names can't have hyphens in them, it's not allowed, so they could just ignore that, but people who don't might misinterpret that. So there is different kind of possible fixes here. And one of them is obviously not to allow the machine name to break, and instead, when there is not enough space, to hide it. And I don't very much like to hide information myself. And also the other thing is that we could use we could also do something with the label part, because it doesn't get broken onto several lines. So I was looking at different simple solutions from CSS. Is that, and here, yeah, when I check this, the machine name column, it inherits all its attributes from body, so it doesn't have anything on its own. And so one of the options is to just remove the hyphens and let it break without hyphens, and then it would be kind of a not so hard to understand, and also it wouldn't be necessarily hidden in narrow view. And also, if the label doesn't need doesn't necessarily benefit from breaking words without hyphens, but it would probably benefit from breaking the lines with hyphens if it's a very long words, but it's more of an edge case to have so long lines that it really causes problems. But on mobile view, it might. One of the possible solutions that was mentioned was to crop the machine name with an ellipsis, or truncate the machine names and possibly with an ellipsis, but that wouldn't. That's something that might cause problems with copy paste, and it's kind of doesn't really make sense to me, especially because often the machine names have kind of one of the patterns to write machine names is to use that kind of a hierarchy where the difference comes in the end. And then one option that's starting to get to be really complex is to have some kind of solution to make these different tables that kind of mobile friendly, so that it loses the kind of the table structure on narrow screen and kind of presents them as more like card style. So that's another one, but I don't think I have example here. So basically my suggestion would be to just break the words, break the machine names using break word, so that it just would break the machine name into several rows, but without hyphens. And also introducing hyphens to the label. So are there any questions or ideas?
Ralph, your hand is up.
Yeah, one question. With the break word suggestion and breaking the machine name but removing the hyphen, in that case, if a user is selecting with double click, for example, the machine name and then copy and pastes, is the machine name then properly pasted in one line and without a space? And I mean, just how it behaves. Have you tested that maybe?
I tested it with Mac in Chrome, and I think for me it copy pasted correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I would think that any CSS change would not affect the copy paste behavior. At least I hope so. I have a question. Looking at that screenshot, one thing that jumps out at me is that all the other columns are very narrow. Does your solution have any effect on how wide the machine name column is?
Yeah, so if the label, so this is because standard table behavior, HTML table behavior, that because there is a single word that doesn't get broken, it kind of uses the space from the other columns. So if the label is also allowed to break, if the longest word in the label is allowed to break, then it will balance the table width. So that's where the kind of a single long word takes up space. So it's not so. If I move up, do you see now the manage fields?
Yes.
Yeah. So here, what happens is that current behavior is that it seems to hide that machine name when it's narrow. So this is a standard Umami installation. And here you can see the hyphenation layout builder layout. So that's a bit funny. And here it doesn't take so much space because the labels are not long. When we add a single long word to the label, then it kind of affects the table.
Yeah.
And then it also doesn't respect the hiding of the machine name. Now that there is not enough space.
I'm sorry, what? Why isn't it respecting the hiding of the machine name?
It's, yeah, I don't know. It's something with the code, frankly, but here it kind of goes beyond. Oh, it might be just a Chrome feature, so it didn't update the JavaScript when I was editing the code. So yeah, so that's not an issue. But if we allow the word to break, then it kind of balances the table a little bit. But here we see the hyphenation. But the hyphens actually also don't have problems with copy paste. But if somebody maybe sends a screenshot or something like that, then it would have effect. Or just if you just have one window and you need to type. But yeah.
Okay, I have a couple of thoughts. First of all, I've never seen a label that's a single very long word. So I think that it's certainly possible, but not something that comes up very often. Although maybe I mostly use English. Maybe other languages are different. I guess no, I don't hear anyone saying that other languages are different. So
yeah, but they are. So here is a one Finnish word that's very common. That's accessibility criteria word.
Okay, so not quite as long as what you had typed in, but still, what is that, about 30 characters?
Yeah, and there are kind of a combination words that make up longer versions.
Second, for the machine name, typically there are a lot of underscores. Is there a CSS property we can use that says it's okay to break a word at an underscore?
I'm going to check that.
And I think that If we had field underscore media underscore, that would be a good place to break and then have image on the next line. And if we can avoid the hyphen, I agree that's a good idea. And as I said before, I think that as long as we're only playing with CSS, we're not going to break the copy paste behavior.
Does breaking it at an underscore, though, like risk that someone would understand that as two separate lines? Like right now, if it breaks in the middle of a word, then obviously it's meant to be one big thing that just wraps. But if it breaks perfectly at an underscore, then I feel like you could possibly read those lines as separate. But maybe that's not a concern given that it's a machine name column.
That's a good question, and it's one that's hard for me to answer because for someone with my level of experience, yes, it's obviously a machine name, it's a single word, but other people with different levels of experience might not find it so obvious.
Yeah, something like this when the it has one character on a new line, that then it's a bit confusing, so it's quite easy to miss it.
Alfred, do you have something you want to say?
I wanted to ask if when we use the hyphenate there and we copy the word, does that copy it without the hyphenate, without the dash?
Yeah, copy paste copies it without a dash.
And is that a problem still?
So it's for sharing screen or sharing a screen or sending a screenshot. That's kind of places where it could have confusion.
Yeah, Offer, I think you missed it earlier, but we did talk about this, and I'm pretty sure that any changes we make in the CSS are not going to affect the copy paste behavior. So it's not a problem as long as our solution is based on CSS.
So here is also I edited the CSS so that we can see option where machine name is kept intact, and it just when it gets narrow, then it gets hidden.
And
So we
is
say
that a
except
concern?
is what a concern, the hiding.
Yeah, hiding it.
That's an intentional decision. In Drupal tables, we can specify some columns as lower priority, and then they are hidden on narrow screens based on the breakpoints. And I think there's a link somewhere that lets you see the whole table and scroll horizontally, although I didn't see that when Simo was changing the width.
Oh yeah, there's the show all columns.
Yeah.
There it is, yeah.
Yeah, it's a I think CSS class for low priority. Yeah. So here, yeah, 340 is a standard width to be allowed. Or it's for usability testing. 340 is one of the widths to be tested. So here we can see if we hyphenate the label, we can get pretty ugly results even without the machine name. So this is something which is not really useful. So I think, yeah, it would be good to have a solution for this kind of tables for mobile. But yeah, here, on the other hand, somebody does like this. So reverses, rotates the phone. So then we again have this one. So I think it looks like, hi, this is,
Yeah, something broke there. If you reload the page, does it still look like that?
no, yeah, this is something with the Chrome tooling. So here we can see it's somehow sensible. It doesn't have the long text here, but it can fit more. So for mobile phone usability, it's something that this doesn't work well in a portrait mode, but landscape works a little bit better. So one option would be to allow to break words in label and disallow breaking words in machine name. But then we will have, what is the maximum number of characters in machine name? So it will be so here if we again so this is kind of the longest possible machine name, replacing everything with, I think, character M would make it longer, and depending on the font, but so this is, well, it's not hyphenatable so much, that word, because it's not a real word, but here the longest possible file machine name that is not broken into several lines, and here is the same word, that same single word as a label, or a little bit longer.
Okay, can we summarize our options at this point? I mean, and I think they're sort of independent, aren't they? So one is that we can suppress the hyphen when a line breaks. Second, we could control where the word breaks. And third, we might adjust the widths of the columns. Are there any other options we have? Of course, if we're willing to change the markup, then we have many more options, but we'd rather not change the markup because we don't want to break the option for copy and paste. So the first one, I think, is pretty clear cut. We do want to get rid of the hyphens. Does anyone disagree with that?
Just one question. Get rid of the hyphens for the machine name column, but also for the label, or use hyphens on the label column and remove it on the machine name?
I think I think it's a separate issue, but it's allowing hyphens on label is
Okay.
another thing that would help.
Yep, then I agree. Just want to clarify.
Yeah.
The scope.
So I'm sorry, you're suggesting that we allow hyphens in the label, but not in the machine name?
Yep.
I guess that makes some sense. Anyone else have an opinion on the hyphens? Okay. So then again, what options do we have to control where the words break? And I did a quick search and did not find the sort of option I was suggesting earlier, where you allow a break at an underscore.
Yeah, that would be only if we do like JavaScript magic.
Well, one sandbox that I often climb on is that Donald Knuth figured out line breaking in the 70s, and web browsers still haven't entirely caught up. And there are many more options for line breaking in tech than there are in CSS. But okay, I'm done with my sandbox. So are there any other options we have for controlling where it breaks? Simo, is the screen what we're looking at now, does that have any changes from your browser tools, or is that just this?
This one forces the machine name to stay intact.
Ah, okay. And then what happens if the machine name is twice as long as that?
This is the longest allowed machine name.
Ah,
Unless well, this is longest allowed from the graphic user interface. I don't know if it's possible to edit the config files to add longer machine names. So is it hard limit, or is it graphic user interface limit? But this is the longest that is allowed from field UI.
so on a narrow screen, wouldn't that be pretty awful? You go
That
down
one.
to 340.
Yeah. So it's about 6. Yeah, so that's ugly at 610 pixels. And then after that, it drops the
What if you
column.
click on show all columns? Then you
Then
have to
it,
scroll horizontally.
yeah. So one option would be to add a media query so that it doesn't allow breaking the machine name without hyphens until a certain screen width. So that's also an option to say that maybe before 640 pixels, or I don't know what are the current.
Perhaps there's I don't know if it's a bigger discussion, probably out of the context of this one, but there's a whole thing with tables and narrow screens, and then should we stick with table when it becomes narrow screen? Is that the best way to display that information? Because right, we could, like, machine name could be beautifully under body with a little indentation, like still make a lot of sense structure wise, but doesn't have to take the rigid space that it takes right now.
Yeah, I think changing this table format into some kind of a more like a card style would make sense in the long run. So that's something that could be proposed.
Well, do you want to pursue that instead of making small changes to CSS here?
I think here it would be good to make a small change.
Ralph agrees with that. So what's why do you think it's a good idea to force the machine name to be on a single line?
Because yeah, it's usually the label is easier to break into several lines, and so it would, so that the idea is that they wouldn't be treated equally. So here it doesn't really make sense. You saw that there was only a slight change in the machine name width, column width, and now it's on several 2 lines, and it didn't really help with the label to be more understandable because it was already on 2 lines. So I think it would make sense for screen with more than 960 to force machine name to be on single line, and after that allow it to break.
I guess my usual feeling is to trust the browser and only override it where there's a clear reason to. I don't see that it's such a big problem to have it break. I don't think that there's a lot of confusion about whether it's one word or 2 words or more. And it seems like we're, doing something sort of complicated, deciding what breakpoint to use, and perhaps unusual things are going on in some of the other columns that we're not thinking about. I'd be inclined just to leave it to the browser whether to break that word or not.
Yeah, but so what we would be doing is just disallow it from using hyphens and
Yes,
just breaking it.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
And I also think that it's really important to support copy and paste, and that is not an issue. For instance, if you double click on that word, it'll select the whole thing, right? You don't have to triple click or anything.
Yeah. Oh, I'm using the mobile, so it's touch. Yeah, double click selects the whole word.
So my suggestion is to keep it simple and not try to fine tune when that line breaks.
Yeah.
Other
So-
opinions? Agree, disagree? I get a thumbs up from Ralph. And a thumbs up from Rachel. And a thumbs up from Offer. And Simo, how do you feel about it?
Yeah,
I
that's
convinced
good,
you?
I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Do we want to make any changes to the label column? So you currently have it breaking without hyphens.
Currently,
I think a few minutes ago, you and Ralph agreed to have hyphens in the label, but not in the machine name.
yeah. So check that it it can break with hyphens. So that's in some cases it's for for some long words it can make sense to allow to break words with hyphens. Yeah.
Okay, so are we settled then? Remove hyphens from machine name, make no other changes there. And I think no changes to the label column.
Yeah, if it breaks or if it hyphenates currently. Yeah, it has out hyphens and break word. So it's should allow it. So it depends on the browser. It doesn't seem to do it though. Yeah, but it might be that browser tools preventing it. Yeah. So remove the hyphens, but I'll allow that machine name to break. So that's the one fix we will do.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Simo, will you write the comment on that issue?
Yeah.
Thank you. Anything else to say on this issue? So we have 10 or 15 minutes left. If you'll let me share my screen, I'll bring up that other issue that I mentioned. Just have to find the right window. This is an issue that Christina Chimias brought up about a week ago. For the sake of the recording, this is issue 500890. The issue title is Save and Edit Functionality in Drupal Core, or just in Core. And the reason it says in Core is that there is already a contribute module that provides similar functionality. It's called Save and Edit. Now, this is an issue that has been around for a while. It didn't get any attention for a long time. Like there was a comment in 2016, and then basically nothing until last month. And I guess what Christina is suggesting is that when you're editing a node and you click the save button, you should stay on the edit page. And she wants to revive this issue to do that. She says, well, she quotes from the description of that module, saves the newest content edits while keeping the user on the node edit page. This feature allows users to manually save drafts as they work on site content without getting distracted by a redirect to the content page. See, do I have a site running at the moment? Open my local site. Oh, it's a funny site. I was testing something with the minimal installation profile rather than the standard or umami profiles that I normally use. So give me just a second and I will install the standard profile and we can see something a little less stark. There we go. Just page. So once I've saved the page, I have the view and edit tabs, and I can use those to switch from the edit page to the view page. And the current behavior is current behavior, I think we're all familiar with this, is that when you click save, it saves the edits and then brings you to the view tab where you see the front end. And if you want to continue editing, you then have to click on the edit tab. And the recommendation is that the save button should change. The behavior of the save button should change. And when you click on save, you stay on this edit page. Any questions about what the issue is about?
One thing, I think when you create a new node, you're not exactly staying on the same page, but you would go from node add to node ID edit, so the URL would change.
That's right, and I guess maybe I should have called that out while I was doing it, but when I created a new article, exactly as Simo says, the first time I saved, it went from node add to node/1. Let me just check, what's the current behavior if I add another line? I think I know what happens. But now if I click on the view tab directly, I think that edit will get lost. If I go back to edit, it's no longer there. That's what I thought would happen. Ralph, go ahead.
Totally out of scope, and but shouldn't there be some sort of confirmation in case you haven't just written a single line, but made in a long document several edits, and by accident switched off your head and you just clicked on the View tab, and then all your work would be lost. So it's a destructional action, and shouldn't there technically some sort of fail-safe?
That's a good question. I think there's a contrib module that provides some confirmation when you're leaving. Now, these are just ordinary links, and it's not very different from typing a new URL into the browser. And furthermore, if instead of clicking the edit tab at this point, if I use the back arrow on my browser, I think it'll still be there. No. Ha, I thought that would work.
Benji, I missed that. Can you please just show what is it the new way is doing? How does it look?
The View tab?
The change from the suggested new behavior.
So the suggested new behavior is that when you click save, you are not redirected to the View tab. That when you click save, it just saves and
Okay.
keeps you
Yeah,
on this page.
got it. Okay. So we're saying, did Ralph say, but like we're missing just the confirmation on top that says so and so was updated, which is the current behavior?
Yeah, I think we would want to keep a confirmation message. But this confirmation message would show on the edit tab rather than on the View tab. Ralph, go ahead.
Just one question, but I haven't read through the issue closely, but isn't the suggestion aside on the save button, staying on the side and just saving the node, add a second button for save and go to, in that case, the view page?
That's certainly an option. We already have the save and preview submit buttons.
Because oops, okay, go ahead, sorry.
And the delete link. I discussed it with Christina on Slack, and she's not thinking of adding yet another button down here. She just wants to change the behavior of the save button. And I think it needs some clarification. She did write this should be the default action. So when you talk about the default action, you're implicitly suggesting that there are ways of overriding the default. But anyway, her current preference is just to make the save button do something different without providing the current behavior as an option. But it's certainly open for discussion.
But that way, basically, the user is sort of stuck on the page.
Right. The only way to navigate away would be with the local tasks.
Yeah.
Also known as tabs.
And oh, go ahead, Simon.
Yeah. So, and we have those small things. What are they called? Contextual links or something like that. That small things we have on the corner of things on the view side.
Right. When you're looking at the front end, you have.
Yeah, on the there on the right. That pin.
I can't see it because of the Zoom windows.
Ah.
In the way.
The
There
quick
we go.
edit.
Yeah, that one when you there click edit. And now you expect to go back to, definitely expect to go back to the same place when you click save.
And that's explicitly specified by the destination parameter.
Yeah.
So if we change and maybe this is what Christina meant by default behavior. If we change it so that by default, the save button keeps you on the edit page, you can always override that by adding the destination parameter.
Yeah, or not, or either keeps you, or it doesn't necessarily keep you on the edit page, but when you create new node, it moves you to the edit page from add page. So that's also something that is not the same action.
I'm afraid we're just about out of time. Certainly, if we're going to use the existing issue, it needs an issue summary update, and Christina marked it for that. Any last comments? And probably we should talk about this some more at the next meeting, unless something else comes up. But
I've been
thank you all.
For a couple of days, I've been mostly working with commerce products, and that's a different use case where you expect to just go one by one and step through quite quickly. So it's with the different content, it can be a little bit different.
I'm sorry, with commerce what?
Commerce products.
Commerce products. Okay.
Commerce products. So then when you add a lot of products, kind of then you don't want to stay on the same page and add extra clicks. Or there might be some other cases where you add small pieces of content and you don't want to stay. So it's kind of depends on what kind of content you are editing or creating. But yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you all for coming, and do it again next week.
Yeah.
Thank you. Have a nice
Thank you.
weekend.
Nice weekend.
Thank you.